Radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, 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 Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan. The voice of the Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atin sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibigpida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, radyo, Katipunan, radyo, Katipunan, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugo, todo sa kayod, tunong at tulong. Lipad na Blue Eagle, galing giting at tigil.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.
Good morning mga Katipuneros, and we are so fortunate to have via Zoom isa pong kababayan natin, but he is far away in faraway London, if I'm not mistaken. So we thank Sister Ina of the Sanakal Sister for introducing him to us so that we can find out what's happening sa mga kababayan po natin, mga OFWs na nasa ibang bansa in this time of pandemic. So we are so happy and we are so grateful to Mr. Pablo Reyes Jr. in London. Hi, Pablo.
Hi, Father Nono. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes.
Morning.
Okay lang. So, iba yung time zone natin. Pablo, maybe you can tell us more about yourself. Taga saan ka ba dito sa Pilipinas at kailan ka pa napunta dyan sa London?
Okay. Born and raised in Davao.
Okay.
And then, born and raised in Davao. I studied nursing there. I took up my MBA also in Ateneo in Davao.
Oh.
And yes, after college, after finishing college, I had a good 8 years working there in Davao as a medical representative. And then I moved to the UK since 2000.
Wow.
So here for 20 years.
20 years. Wow.
Doing nursing.
So, wow. So, 20 years in London lang, or you've been around?
In London lang. London lang.
So does that mean that you already have a British citizenship? I don't know how it works there.
Yes, I was a dual citizen from 2005.
Okay. Do you have a family of your own there?
I don't have a family here. I'm by myself here. I have my couple of two siblings back home in Davao, and one sister is also based abroad. One sister who used to be based abroad but already passed away 10 years ago.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that.
Okay. Both my parents have already passed on as well. So
okay. So before we talk about what has happened, kasi parang London or UK is one of the, di ba, yung parang badly hit also by this pandemic,
second to the US, yes.
Second to the US. Wow. Mm-hmm. But before that, tell us about your work, How is it to be a nurse in London? I'm sure marami tayong mga estudyante dito. Di ba nagtatanong?
Yes. Yeah. I was a day surgery practitioner for the past 20 years. So I rotate between theaters. We call the operating room as theaters here. as what it was used to be called before.
Mhm.
And then I rotate between theaters, recovery, and the ward.
Mm.
So I've been doing that for 20 years as a day surgery practitioner. And then recently, during the COVID period, there were no elective surgeries happening in our trust, in our hospital. So I was relegated to the infection and prevention control team.
Mhm.
So right now, I'm currently working with the infection control people, um, a, propagating the right use of PPEs, training doctors,
Mhm.
nurses, healthcare, and monitoring how the use of PPEs and monitoring the the ins and outs of the microorganisms
Mhm.
within ITU, within ICU, within the emergency departments, and with the whole of the trust, in the whole of the trust,
Wow.
in the whole of the building.
So ang tawag ng hospital dyan, trust.
Yes, the National Health Service is the government hospitals here. So
Okay.
we call the hospitals here as foundation trusts. So for me, for example, I work at the Royal Free Hospital NHS Foundation Trust.
Mhm.
So that is the hospital where I work for. I work in a hospital in one of the biggest government training hospitals here in central London.
Wow. And what can you say about their public health system? Um, One of the better ones in the world?
Definitely. I mean, Canada at some point tried to copy this one,
Mhm.
and even US was trying to copy this one, but because it was very difficult because they started this a long time ago. So
Mhm.
it was very difficult to copy. So I don't think um, any other country um, would have been able to copy this
Mhm.
exactly what the NHS is doing for its people. Because with the NHS, the National Health Service, um, it's taxpayers' money. It's
Mhm.
taxpayers' money, but it is very generous to its people. It's very generous to its people because from birth to death, you're taken care of. Everything,
Wow.
from medicines to everything and everything. As a matter of fact, they've been very generous to us during the COVID period. During
Mhm.
COVID period, from day one, all trusts that have been relegated to take care of the COVID positive patients and COVID patients who are having COVID symptoms, from day one, they provided us with free meals
Mhm.
24/7.
Wow.
24/7, even up to today, and they converted our gymnasium here,
Mhm.
our recreational club, as a grocery store. So
Okay.
every 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 time you finish your shift, you pass through that grocery store, and they will give you 6 items
Mhm.
free. Anything
Wow.
from rice to vegetables to fruits to chocolates to anything and everything that you can get from the grocery stores, from toilet papers. You can get it there every time you finish your shift.
Wow, great. And what can you say about the treatment of the Filipino health workers there in London before the pandemic, in general?
Yeah, in general, before the pandemic, um,
Or mixed?
they have accorded us with utmost respect and admiration. Alam
Okay.
mo, tayong mga Filipino, kaming mga Filipino nurses, kahit saan ka naman nilagay sa buong mundo, I think we really stand out. A very few in my 20 years here,
Mhm.
mabibilang ko sa kamay ko yung talagang um, kakilala ko na Filipino nurse na talagang medyo may problema lang talaga sa attitude, siguro, ganon. Tapos, but generally, we are well admired, and we are well accepted
Appreciated.
in every area. Yes. Compensation wise, siguro the basic salary that we have here initially when you start here is exactly the same as that in the US.
Wow.
Magkakadiferensya lang siguro sa benefits, no?
Mhm.
At saka the cost of living, our cost of living allowance here is being augmented by something that what we call London waiting allowance. It's called the cost of, parang COLA yan equivalent sa atin sa Philippines eh. But because of the healthcare system here being free, so pag nagkasakit ka, wala ka ring gagastusin.
Oh,
From cancer treatments to
mhm.
anything and everything. So medications, lahat naman dito libre pag nagkasakit ka.
Are there lots of Filipino health workers in London ba?
Yes, yes. Sobrang dami na namin dito. As a matter of fact, during the COVID period as well, those nurses who have not finished their OSCEs yet, they call them yung recruitment kasi dito is OSCE na eh. Parang mag-aaral sila, tapos they will have to be tested with their skills, knowledge, and with regard to their medical background. They waived all that at the moment, and they assigned PIN numbers. The license to practice nursing here, they assigned PIN numbers straight away to those people who have not yet finished the OSCEs, and they are already nurses back home or nurses anywhere in the world. So they've already given them PIN numbers. In effect, you're already a licensed practitioner, licensed nurse practitioner here when you arrive here during the COVID period. Of course, they are gonna revert back to the OSCEs after all these COVID will be finished.
Okay, but you say there's a big community of Filipino health workers there. But are you organized? Meron ba kayong di ba, mga kumbaga days that you gather together? Are there things like that?
Per trust, I think there are per trust. None that I know of specifically that all the nurses here gather. Mostly, we gather here according to the regions we come from there in the Philippines.
Okay.
So that's mostly where we affiliate ourselves to. So pagka taga Manila ka or taga Davao ka or taga Bicol ka, so gano siguro no. Pero yung to really form an organization, hindi siguro. Parang most nurses here would rather do some bank shifts or extra shifts in the hospital for money.
Ang sipag nyo. Yeah.
Oo, masisipag yung mga nurses dito, hindi nag-off nga eh.
Wow. Okay, Pablo, let's talk about this crisis, the pandemic. Nothing like this, nothing close to this has happened before. This is unprecedented rin sa sa London, I mean, nagkaroon na ba ng pandemic or something like
there was the Spanish flu in 1918.
Oh, matagal na yun.
Sobrang tagal na yun. So after that, I think wala nang sumunod eh. Ito na yung pinaka malala.
So hindi kayo na abot ng SARS or ng MCOV?
Hindi eh. Sobrang meron, they prepared the hospitals for it, but it never reached to as big a magnitude as this. So hindi talaga siya umabot ng ganito eh. Pero siguro isa o dalawa, but the ones that was admitted in this hospital, they brought the patient via helicopter and using the helipad of the hospital, and they built a makeshift tunnel for the patient to get into the hospital. And when the hospital eventually got well, they passed through that tunnel or tube as well, and was also transported back via the helicopter. So hindi talaga siya dumaan sa main doors ng hospital namin. And they were relegated to the topmost ward in the hospital. So sa pinakataas ng hospital sila ata inadmit. There I could only remember 2.
Okay. So nung sinabi mo kanina na Great Britain is second to the US in terms of di ba, yung impact of the. Why do you say that? Ilan ba yung cases, would you know, at ilan yung namatay?
Oh, we're running 35,000 na eh. So initially it was the US who had the biggest number of deaths, and then followed by Italy. But we superseded Italy. So we superseded Italy immediately after I think a couple of weeks. So it was the UK who we were having 800 deaths per day.
Wow.
800 deaths per day, and up until 2 weeks ago we were still having 600 deaths per day. Right. At the moment it has gone down to at least 100 deaths per day.
Wow.
Mortalities per day.
I'm not going to ask about the US kasi more or less people say it's because of their president. That explains a lot why sila yung worst hit ng pandemic. But what about in the UK? Bakit nag-second kayo?
Well, I think
Baka delikado yung buhay mo.
hindi naman. Sa tingin ko, medyo late kami nag-lockdown eh.
Okay.
Up until our Prime Minister was hospitalized, or Prime Minister Boris Johnson was hospitalized, and then he got well. I think that's when all the actions came into place. So doon nagkaroon agad ng mabilisang lockdown. At the same time, makeshift hospitals, yung mga Nightingale hospitals were created, and some of our ITU staff in the hospital here were assigned to man those Nightingale hospitals, yung mga makeshift hospitals nila. Those were concert venues na ginawa nilang mga hospitals in case talagang magkaroon ng surge, no? May mga na-admit naman doon, but the problem there was that the facility was not really as good, as complete as the ones we have in the hospital. So every time they needed to admit a patient who is really unwell and needs to be intubated, needs to be looked after in an ITU setting, nahihirapan pa rin sila doon, even with the makeshift ITU setup nila doon. So kumukuha pa rin sila ng supplies from the hospital.
So right now, punong-puno ba mga hospital pa ng mga patients?
Not anymore. I think what's happening right now is that not anymore. As a matter of fact, there were a couple of days last week na we were down to nasa ITU namin na COVID positive patients. We were down to at least 3 or 4, and then in the whole of the hospital, for a good 1 or 2 days, parang in the whole of the hospital, parang 10 na lang yung COVID positive patients. But of course, we still treat those symptomatic patients whose test results have not come out yet. Na we still treat them as if they were going to be positive at the end of the day.
Okay.
So,
Pablo, when this was starting out, when did you realize, ikaw personally, when did you realize that this was something really, really serious?
When I had my first-hand experience of having COVID-like symptoms, I never got tested, but I had all 10 out of 10 yung symptoms ko eh. So,
wow.
I think I came back here in the UK after my 2 weeks planned vacation in the Philippines in last March 15. I came back here on the 15th of March. I went on duty for 1 day on the 16th. And then in the evening of the 16th of March, I think that's when my symptoms started. So fever of 40 degrees. I was nearly bedbound for 10 days. I had the worst symptoms. I had continuous headaches, body aches and pains. I had, after a couple of days, I had diarrhea and vomiting. I also had, I almost had everything. I lost my appetite immediately after day 1. I lost my sense of smell and taste after day 2. And it scared the hell out of me. I thought that was that. That was my life. Finishing already. So after 12 days of having like COVID symptoms, the COVID doctor that I used to call on a daily basis has been monitoring me already, because he was afraid that I had shortness of breath as well. I had shortness of breath. I almost had everything, all the symptoms, but I never got tested, you see, because they wanted me to go to a particular testing place, which is far from where I live and far from where I work at that time. So I told the doctor I couldn't possibly go there. I could barely stand up. So for a good 12 days, I was really nearly bedbound.
There in your home, all alone?
Yes, all alone. Yeah. I was by myself here, although I was being monitored by a COVID online doctor for every morning, lunch, and dinner, every morning, afternoon, and evening. So I was being monitored by that COVID doctor, and that COVID doctor was really good to me. He even volunteered because I couldn't get the prescription for myself because he was gonna prescribe me some medications. I told him I couldn't get those medicines anyway. So he volunteered to be the one to um, take the medication to where I live. So he actually brought the medication to me. Yeah, mabait, sobrang bait. Natakot din siya kasi sa akin because from the assessment that he had, I was really candidate to be. I was really candidate already to be to be admitted in the hospital, and eventually, sabi niya sa akin, if this will really go, if it really go from bad to worse, then we will really have to intubate you. I really refuse to be admitted. I told him that I'm going to get well. I'm really very positive. So after taking anti-malarial, antiretrovirals, antibiotics, and antipyretics all at the same time, I didn't feel really. I didn't feel well at all for 12 days. No, even after the medication has commenced. So one of my friends from Davao, who happens to be a doctor, that I I had the chance to speak with during this time that I was having symptoms. He was a traditional medicine doctor. So he was the one who suggested to me na, I do not know if you're familiar with the term, but in Bisaya, we call it tuob eh. So this is tuob, boiling ginger.
Yes.
So, boiling ginger and inhaling, steam inhalation. So I've inhaled all that for a good 20-30 minutes, and then drinking the boiled water with the ginger for the whole day. Siguro mga 12 hours ko ininom yun, and then started drinking lemon water shortly after that. That same evening, I was able to take a bath. Wow. That same evening. So the following morning, all of a sudden, sobrang gutom na ako. But that experience really changed my whole perspective in life.
Naku.
I mean, I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
And when I was almost dying by myself in my flat here in the UK, I already gave instructions to my siblings, and I already contacted my lawyer friend who has a copy of my last will and testament.
Yes.
Yeah, last will and testament, and I already told them what to do. You know? So what I did with my documents here in the UK and a couple of my possessions, I already wrapped them in plastic, because what happens here is that if you die in your flat, they will not touch they will incinerate all your clothes. They will incinerate all your belongings. They will not even, because that's what happens here. You will put in a body bag, and then all your belongings will be incinerated. So I already wrapped all my belongings and put it on the table, and I already made instructions there. Whatever happens to me, this needs to get to my family.
Okay.
And so, but I didn't want to scare my relatives and my siblings, my cousins and my siblings. So I was just having I was just voice calling them. I did not allow them to see me because they're gonna get scared, no? So I was really avoiding that.
So
luckily on the 13th day, I was already eating, and I was already very hungry, and I was already taking showers every now and again. And I said, this is it. I think I really got well already. The highlight of it all, I think is really the divine intervention. You know, when Pope had this blessing, Urbi and Orbi. What's Urbi and Orbi? I attentively listened to that and watched it on my computer, and I think shortly after that, I did the ginger thing and all that stuff, the steam inhalation thing and all that stuff, and immediately after 12 hours, that got me well.
Wow.
After 14 days, that's the 13th day. On the 14th day, I was already preparing to go to work. I already messaged all the occupational health and department. I already messaged my my boss in the hospital and say, I'm returning back to work on tomorrow. I said, will that not be too soon? And I said, I will not die of COVID. I will die of boredom here and depression in my flat. So I'd rather go back to work. So immediately after that, yes, I went back to work on the 15th day.
Grabe ka. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. God's grace. God's grace.
Grace,
I
yeah.
have to say.
Kasabihan ko si Pope Francis, Nax naman. That his prayer helped you, ano. Pero ang swerte mo, no, Pablo, kasi sabi mo, you came from the Philippines and you started feeling sick there, ano. So,
No. I didn't feel nothing there. I didn't feel nothing there. As a matter of fact, if the people here in the UK will tell me that you shouldn't have come back to work immediately after you've been to the Philippines, and I will tell them that's wrong. I think I really got the COVID symptoms from one of the patients that I looked after on that day when I arrived back to work. I swabbed 2 patients that day. Yeah, I swabbed 2 patients that day, and they were really symptomatic.
okay.
They were really symptomatic. And at that time, we were not taught PPE properly yet. We were not, the PPEs that we were using at the time, gloves, apron, and mask, the usual mask, not the FPP3 or we were just using the surgical mask. So I think that was really that. I mean, I could never think of anywhere that I could have possibly contracted the virus from.
Yeah, pero hindi ka nila hindi ka rin nila pinigilan. Kasi nagla-lockdown na yung mga countries, 'di ba?
Hindi, as a matter hindi nila ako pinigilan eh. Nag-lockdown ang Philippines ng March 15 eh. I already left the Philippines ng March 14 ng gabi.
Swerte mo.
So pagdating ko dito, wala naman. They were just taking our temperatures, and I wasn't really. I mean, sa awa ng Diyos, by God's grace, I never got ill in my life. As a matter of fact, with my 20 years here in the UK, I was never sick. I was never late for work. So I was really telling myself, this is it. I'm going to retire.
Bata mo pa. Okay, so what about the other Filipino nurses or doctors? Have you heard from them?
I only know of 2 Filipino doctors from UST na nag-work as a doctor here, because our medical education back home in the Philippines is not equivalent to their medical education here. So you really have to take at least 8 exams before you can be a doctor here.
Grabe.
So yeah, I have some friends who are anesthesiologists there and doctors there, and who studied nursing as well, but they opted to become nurses here. So the statistics here is that parang 48 if I'm not mistaken, no? So 28 of those are Filipino nurses. Some of them I know. 28 are Filipino nurses. Some are healthcare assistants, and some work in the Allied Medical Services Department.
Who passed away?
Yes, who passed away. And these are people who passed away that have been tested and that have really got treatments from the hospital. Because there were also those people who became positive and died without being tested and have not been counted in the numbers.
Wow. So pwedeng marami pa.
Kasi reported lang ito with the Philippine Embassy. These are the numbers reported to the Philippine Embassy, and the Philippine Embassy knows about.
So, how do you feel about that? Hindi ka ba kinabahan na, yun nga, ikaw mismo, dinaanan mo 14 days of hell, di ba? By your lonesome treating yourself, and then you reported to work again. Hindi ka ba natatakot na you'll get it again?
I work closely with our microbiologist and an infectious disease consultant here at the Royal Free at the moment, because I'm with the infection control team. So we normally have meetings with them every week. And they are really like saying that there was no proof of reinfection yet. But what they're trying to say is that once your immune system has lowered, you could get any infection at all, whether it's corona, whether it's COVID, whether it could be anything else. So that could still kill you anyways. So
Mhm.
they are not saying, they are not ruling out that your antibodies and antigen that you have created after contracting the virus will give you immunity, but as to how long that immunity will work for you,
Mhm.
it still all depends on your immune system.
Mhm.
So I've been telling my friends, and I've been telling them, it's really boosting your immune system at the end
Okay.
of the day.
Ah.
Mm.
But of course, di ba parang nakakatakot that people are dying? Sabi mo nga, second, for a time, it was the second hardest hit, ano? Ang London.
You can.
So, hindi ba nakakatakot yun? People are dying around you.
Nakakatakot. As a matter of fact, it's very depressing. At
Oo.
the end of our shifts in the hospital, ang makikita mo sa BBC News, ang makikita mo sa sa Facebook, ang makikita mo are some of your Filipino colleagues and in the National Health Service, and some of your Filipino friends even
Mhm.
who are dying. There was one documentary na pinalabas sa isang TV station dyan, na this was in St. George's Hospital, I think. St.
Mm.
George's Hospital here. I mean, the dying moments of that particular nurse was actually filmed on a video by a colleague, by a Filipino nurse who was also looking after him in that ITU in that ITU department. So it was being filmed while the mother was saying goodbye to her son, who was a nurse here. It was filmed on a video, and it was very depressing. It was very depressing. Sobrang nakakapanlumo at saka nakakatakot yung sight na yon. But it happens, no? Yun lang isa sa mga nakuna ng video. But what about the rest? There was one Filipino nurse who died in his flat after contracting the illness after 6 days, and the niece had to call an ambulance here in London because the niece lived in Scotland, I think, who is his closest family here in the UK. So the niece had to call the ambulance and say, you need to go to my uncle's flat and check him out because he's not responding to any of his social media accounts anymore.
Mhm.
So even to his mobile phone. So yeah, the following day they found the dead body inside his flat under his bed.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
Pero yung yung Piers Morgan. Grabe yung very touching yun, yung si Piers Morgan. Siguro the first I don't know, on the second month I think he was broadcasting, and he gave praise, appreciation to our Filipino health.
He wasn't always like that, ha? He
Kaya
wasn't
nga,
always
di
like
ba?
that.
Medyo, sorry for the word, pero medyo beachy yun, di ba?
Oh, yeah. He
Pero,
wasn't always like that.
yeah,
And we were all surprised when he really said those statements
yes,
on live television.
yeah. So, and I'm sure hindi lang, marami kayong ganun yung pakiramdam, na fear, di ba? Although, yes, you are appreciated, but I'm sure there is fear na baka madapuan ka ng sakit and you may not recover, di ba? What were
on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, before going to work, during every morning I usually have my prayer time before preparing for work and all that side. So it has become a habit for me to do my prayer time first thing in the morning.
Okay.
And all it is really is that you will just hope and pray that God's protection will be all over you, and that you will not be exposed to this virus. But then again, yung lockdown kasi dito hindi siya ganun ka, especially with the frontliners, no? Hindi naman siya ganun ka very strict. You can still go out. As a matter of fact, they are still encouraging you to go out to the park and do your daily walking, provided you have a mask with you when you board public transport. And if you're a frontliner here, hindi sila masyado naghigpit eh. you can still go around, go do up your daily activities during the day, even after your shift. But of course, ikaw na yung matatakot kasi parang deserted na yung place eh. And the people who are just walking are just frontliners, and you would not know where these frontliners come from, whether their hand washing habits are really up to scratch, that they are really protecting themselves from the virus, from contracting the virus, whether they have worn the right PPEs during the day, or whether they have exposed themselves talaga during the time that they are looking after. The sad, actually, yung mga medyo stricto pa na nag-lockdown dito yung mga nursing homes at saka yung mga residential homes.
Of course,
But the problem there is that yung staff naman nila ang in and out of their facilities. So hindi rin, kahit wala sila initially, later on when the numbers were rising, that's when they started counting the deaths in the nursing homes and the residential homes, which initially were not counted. So they were just counting the ones who were brought to the hospital and who really had severe symptoms.
Alam mo dito, Pablo, last month yata yun, just last month, April, yung natin, yung gobyerno, yung Department of Health in particular, started appealing for more health workers, di ba? Kasi parang nagkukulang na raw, Diyan ba sa London, nagkaroon din ng ganyang experience? Did you
Yes.
have to take many shifts?
Yes. Ang naging problema dito, like in our hospital, I have never seen after I had my symptoms, so I felt it was I had to do my share in looking after these COVID patients also in the hospital, because they were already there were a good 1,100 employees who are off sick when the time I got back, during the time that I got back to the hospital and did my shift. We were very short. As a matter of fact, we were welcoming of all agency nurses, and the Public Health England has called on, the Nursing and Midwifery Council here, which is the regulating body for nurses and midwives here in the UK, has called out on all those who have retired already.
Wow.
To come back and serve, and they will pay them as bank money. So, but like extra, you were just doing extra shift for the entire COVID time. So I think they were called back. Some of my friends who have retired already were called back. So as well as that, and the ones who did not have their PIN numbers yet, your PIN numbers meaning yung license mo, you will need to have a PIN number when you practice nursing here in the UK. Some of those that have not had their PIN numbers yet and have not finished their OSCEs, yung mga overseas foreign nurses na pumunta dito, they were given temporary PIN numbers.
Ayun. Dahil nga kulang talaga ng tao.
Sobrang kulang ng tao talaga. Sobrang kulang ng tao.
What about you personally? Did you have to go to many shifts? Ano ba yun? Nagdoble-doble ka?
Okay. When I got back, so after my symptoms, nung bumalik ako sa hospital, nagsara na yung day surgery unit, no? Kasi wala nang elective surgeries So wala na, talagang hindi na nila kinancel na nila lahat ng elective surgeries. So mga emergencies na lang, tapos mga COVID patients na cancer patients, renal patients, mga nagda-dialysis, transplant patients na kailangan talaga ng transplants ang ginagawa nila, no? So nung bumalik ako, I was relegated to work for my 12 shifts. That's 12 shifts in a month, 12 to 13 shifts. So for my 12 shifts that particular month, I was brought to the different wards in the hospital looking after COVID positive patients. Wow. So on a normal day, we would be, because our units has already closed, so pupunta kami dun sa parang holding room, and then each and every one of us will be allocated a different ward every day, every single day. You could not choose the ward that you go to. So some of my colleagues did an upskill training for ITU para mag-work sila doon sa ITU. Some of my colleagues was sent to the site and bed team, and then the remainder went to the different wards, no? So for 12 shifts, iba-ibang wards ang napuntahan ko. I must have gone to a good 16, 17 wards
My God.
for my 12 shifts. Dahil ganun ka-busy talaga. And we were doing long days. We were doing 3-day shifts a week at the time. But dahil maraming off-sick, maraming ano, the problem there was that when you are allocated in a particular ward, you will be working with people who doesn't even work in that particular ward. So you would be leading, I mean, a blind will be leading another blind because you would not know where things are kept. You would not know what their protocols are, kumbaga, ano lang talaga sink or swim eh. But but ang sabi ko na lang doon, sige, matatapos din to. And then finally, after a month, I was really mulling things over na kakayanin ko ba to? I already did my share, nag-alaga na ako ng mga COVID patients, nagbalot na ako ng mga pasyenteng namamatay. Tapos, nakailang balot na ako, nakaano na ako. Sinabi ko talaga sa sarili ko na, time to do something, it's about time to do something else. So, marami namang jobs. As a matter of fact, nakakatuwa dito sa UK, no? Kasi, kung hindi ka health worker, like for example, the people from the British Airways and Virgin Atlantic, so wala silang flights. So they served here. They served here in the hospital. They volunteered to do our teas and coffees, to serve us with food and chat with us para mag-debrief, no? Kasi sobrang stress na eh. So ano sila sa amin, they were giving us ice creams, they were giving us anything and everything to make you feel good, no, during your break. And then what's this? So yun ang nangyari doon. So after a month, sabi ko, this is it. Sabi ko, mag-iiba na ako, maghanap ako na ibang gagawin. So I spoke to my manager, I spoke to my matron, and I told them that I would like to do something else. So tumingin kami sa Freenet, yung parang hospital hospital webpage namin. And they were the ones who told me that the head of the infection control team is in need of volunteers. So sabi ko, I think I can do that. So I spoke to the head initially, and who happened to be my friend, no? She was a Hong Kong national, but has already been here in the UK for the longest time. So parang Briton na rin siya, but I've known her for the longest time. So when she saw me and I spoke to her and I said, you need to rescue me from the wards. I need to do something else. So anyways, I was relegated now to do infection control. I was with infection and prevention control team now. So ever since then, up to today. So I think I'm going to be with them for a while because they are really very short also.
Pero I can just imagine the way you were describing things at the time, very hectic, all in frenzy, grabe, no?
Kare-receive mo pa lang nung handover from the night staff, meron ka nang babalutin kasi may namatay na doon sa bay na aalagaan mo. Out of the 6 patients, yung isa patay na the night before, kaya lang hindi na magkasya sa fridge, sa freezer ng morgue. So, nandoon pa pero naka-body bag na. Without the rest of the patients knowing na meron ng dead body amongst them.
God. Oh my God.
As in, nakakatuwa. Tapos hindi ka pa tapos may babaluting ka na naman.
Aside from aside from takot, aside from pagod, di ba? Pag namamatayin ka ng pasyente, what do you feel? Or there's no more time to feel anything? You just have to move on to the next patient, Okay.
Our calling and our vocation has always taught us to be compassionate, particularly with the dying, to even just hold their hands as they breathe their last. To if you're a believer, and if the patient is a believer, to probably even pray with them or offer them extreme unction, the sacrament of extreme unction. Hardly any time to do that anymore.
Sabi ko na.
Because sa sobrang dami ng gagawin mo, hindi na eh. Parang hindi naman directive or instructions, no? Hindi naman directive or instruction talaga. Magagalit ang NHS sa akin pag sinabi kong directive or instruction na pagka dying na yung patient. Actually, sometimes when they enter the hospital, when they get admitted to the hospital, immediately after their admission, their fate is already determined. By way of saying that, I mean there's already a doctor, and there's already people who will make the decision to say these patients are not for resuscitation. So DNAR na ito. So if they suddenly become breathless, and I have looked after a patient whose medications were withheld already, whose observations, yung vital observations, hindi na namin kinukunan for that particular shift. Kasi, hinihintay na lang talaga. So, sabi, naisip ko doon, sabi ko, ganun lang pala talaga, no? Sa sobrang, hindi mo na sila, kumbaga, you just pull the curtains around them and wait for them to pass away.
Yeah.
Pass on. Ganun kalala. Nung mga lang naman yon, nung mga sobrang dami nung namamatay every day.
Yeah. Aren't you glad that that time is over?
I'm glad that that time is over, but at the same time, anticipating for second surge.
Second wave?
Second wave.
Oh
second
my
wave.
God.
We are actually, our hospital is being prepared.
Oh my
I
God.
really don't know whether I still have a ward to go back to, because our physical ward, which is located right across high dependency unit and recovery, is already being converted as an 14-bedded ITU. So they are creating in our hospital, who used to have a 34-bed ITU facility, they are now going to prepare it for a 120-bed capacity ITU.
Wow.
So ganun sila nagpe-prepare talaga dito, and they are not being complacent, which is good, no? Which is good. They are not being complacent because, in the next week or so, the children will be back in school. Although meron silang days talaga na papasok sila, at saka meron lang window hours na papasok sila, tapos hindi na sila magsasabay-sabay lahat. But then again, one of the doctors who's has son who's going to school, no? Parang sinabi nga niya sa Facebook page niya at one point na, I do not want my son to be your guinea pig. Doon sa second wave na sinasabi mo. Dahil papapasukin mo yung mga bata, these children don't have a clue about responsible hand washing, contaminating themselves and all that. They would not have any idea of all of these things that are happening around them. You may teach them in a fun way, but they will not understand the whole of this, the whole gamut of things. So sabi nga niya, hindi niya papapasukin ang anak niya kahit na nag-open na yung classes dito. Kasi gagawin nilang ginyapig ang mga bata, titingnan nila kung magkakaroon ng second wave, second surge. So it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
So wala nang lockdown ngayon? No more?
Wala na. They started, actually, ang approach ng government here is to slowly, week by week, assess the situation, risk assess, and then slowly open a few shops, slowly open those who provide the basic services initially, and then eventually move to the ones who provide like for example gupit. Sobrang haba na ng mga buhok namin dito. Kami na lang gumugupit sa sarili namin.
Para tayo.
Wala akong mapuntahan eh. Ito na daw yung COVID look eh. But we can't do anything anymore.
So you're saying now that with the reopening of school and other institutions, the government is preparing for a possible second wave.
Yes, but of course they cannot say that on live television. But of course, the preparations that are in place at the moment, like the hospitals are being segregated as clean and ang ano nila dito is protected COVID ward. So pag protected COVID ward or protected COVID hospital, talagang puro clean cases lang pupunta dyan sa inyo, and the patients will be assessed for the 2 weeks prior to their appointment in the hospital, prior to their admission. And they will be monitored, and they will have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. After 7 days, they will be called again. And after 3 days before coming to the hospital, they will be screened again and tested. Wala silang problema sa testing kits dito eh. Wala silang problema sa testing. One patient who used to be positive could get tested 10 times eh. Just to make sure. Yeah. Yung mga staff dito, we started testing the staff, no? Yesterday, some of my colleagues from the department have already trained volunteers who are nurses who will be testing the staff. The staff who will be looking after the clean ward and the COVID, the risk managed ward. So yun ang term na ginagamit nila dito eh. Protected clean ward and then the risk managed wards. The risk management will always be a mix of COVID positive patients and those that are showing symptoms.
But what do you think of all of that? Oh, the preparations. Will you still become part of that? Will you still allow yourself?
I'm actually very much part of that. As a matter of fact, having been relegated to the infection prevention and disease and control team, sobrang mas na-involved lalo ako, hindi lang looking after patients but making sure that the audits are being done in the different units of the hospital, so that hand washing audits, if they are really doing the hand washing techniques properly, and then the PPEs are the right PPEs being worn at the moment. Now that we have gone back to wearing apron, gloves, and mask only. And visors, and then for those areas na talagang meron pang COVID and for those patients na may looking after COVID symptomatic patients, so they will still have to don the full PPE. There's one unit in ITU, one area in ITU that still does the full PPE. Of course, medyo nagre-relax sila. I kept telling them, I kept scaring them. You're just gonna have to protect yourself whatever happens, because at the end of the day, you never know whether you have had symptoms, whether those were COVID symptoms or those were not COVID symptoms. We are all still vulnerable for reinfection.
Parang precaution, cleanliness are the new normal na, di ba?
The new normal talaga, yes. And it has to become a way of life.
Yes.
It has to be ingrained in us that in order for you to live the new normal, you have to always be armed with alcohol, mask, and gloves, and aprons if you're dealing with sick COVID patients and all that stuff, and even in our respective homes. So, every time we go back to our respective flats and condos and homes here, our uniforms have to be, we leave our uniforms in the hospital, and you should never be traveling with your own uniform. So definitely you leave them all in the hospital. They get washed there at a certain degree. And then you're just going to have to take a shower. Before or as soon as you reach home. So you should never take chances. You should never take chances.
Lalo na sa inyo, no? Wow, my hat, I take my hat off you, no? Kasi nga, grabe, sasaba ka pa. Sumasaba ka
and to the rest of the frontliners here and there in the Philippines and all over the world. I think saludo talaga kami sa kanila. There's a very nice tradition here in the UK ever since COVID times. Every Thursday at 8 o'clock in the evening, the people go out of the streets or open their windows, and the ambulances and the cars honk their horns, and they clap for the NHS.
So, sinubukan niya dito sa Pilipinas, ginaya, pero hindi tumagal.
Dito may mga ibang areas din na napagod But for some, when you go out, talagang pumapalakpak pa rin sila
But the appreciation, our prayers in our masses are always for the frontliners. Palagi yan, ano? So saludo kami sa iyo.
Thank you very much.
How does it make you feel na, yun nga, kayo ngayon ng hero, bayaning tinatawag, frontliner nga, no? First responders. How does that make you feel? Alam mo, yung puri ni Piers Morgan.
Okay. You will appreciate it. It will sink into your system for a day. After that, for a day siguro, pero after that, pareho pa din You just go back to the normalcy of what you do The funny thing is that parang sa Pilipinas, 'di ba? The sad part of being an OFW. I've been an OFW for the past 20 years.
Yes.
So ibig ko lang sabihin is that, 'di ba? Lagi nilang sinasabi kayo yung mga bagong bayani,
Bagong bayani.
and yet even the right amount of PPE they cannot provide, and they can only, some people will even hate you for what you do. Some people will never understand how difficult it is. But we're not complaining. We're not complaining. We've chosen this type of work. We've chosen this type of vocation, and so be it. I mean, during this time of COVID, we are not saying we're better than the rest of the people in the whole of the world. We're not better than any of you. We're just as the same, vulnerable, very helpless, but we try our best. We try our best. And I've been asking my friends here, how do you feel about being relegated as heroes and heroines of our time? Sabi nila, nakakataba ng puso. But at the same time, sana may malaman din ng mga tao na hindi naman natin ito ginagawa because we wanted to be appreciated. We wanted to be, but this is the call that we've already taken. We've taken our oath to do this particular job. We do this.
That's why you're so laudable, of course, without further embarrassing, Pero that's why the frontliners like yourself are very praiseworthy. Kasi nga, you're just doing your job. Diba? This is your job. Diba? This is your ordinary routine, diba? You look at it as your vocation, your call. Diba? Pero many have died already. Many have given up their lives for this. So, hindi nyo hinahanap yung, diba? Hindi nyo hinahanap yung puri, hindi nyo hinahanap yung, diba, na mapag-usapan kayo. You're just doing your job. And that's why you're so praiseworthy because of that. So, we really thank you.
You're welcome. There are two things that I have come to realize during this pandemic. No, there are two things that really made me realize, as a human person, as a brother, as a frontliner, as a friend, to everyone in the whole of humanity. One is that this coronavirus, this COVID-19 pandemic, has instilled fear in each and every one of us. The problem with that is that if you nurture that fear, that will cripple you all your life.
Correct.
You will not be able to do your activities of daily living. You will not be able to socialize. You will not be able to make friends with other people. You will not be able to reach out to other people needing your help. You will not be able to do your job properly because of fear. And I've been telling this I've been telling this to all the doctors, nurses, and healthcare assistants, and all the people that I'm training at the Royal Free. No, all this coronavirus has done to us is to instill fear in us.
Yeah.
But we counter that fear. If we counter that fear properly, with proper hand washing techniques, with proper guidance of what PPE to use when we're looking after COVID positive patients, with proper cleanliness, with proper disposal of our wastes, with proper boosting of our immune system, we can counter that fear. And this coronavirus, as big as it is, it will not. This is not airborne yet. Wala pang talaga na airborne ito siya. This is droplet, and if it will not reach you, yung droplet na ito because of gravity will go down to the ground straight away. So all you need to do is to clean that surface. All you need to do is to clean your hands, wash your hands properly. All you need to do is to boost your immune system. All you need to do is to create a psyche in your mind that I will counter, and I am bigger than this virus, and I'm definitely moving forward and do my life as I have to do it. The second thing that I realized during this coronavirus is that it has also instilled and reinstilled kindness in each and every person in the whole world.
Yeah.
because it's very apparent that even our consultants, even some of our colleagues here, even some of our nurses who are already tired of doing what they're doing, who sometimes frown at you already when you're in the clinical setting, who always, right during this COVID pandemic, parang everyone seems to be happy doing what they're doing. Everything is extending help to each and every person who's needing help. Mag-shout out ka lang sa social media that I'm really depressed, and really, people will start calling you. People will start asking you if you need anything, if you need some groceries to be done, if you need some grocery shopping, if you need, people, I mean, I've always believed in human kindness, but all the more it was highlighted that during this COVID pandemic time, although it has instilled fear in each and every one of us, it has, a human kindness has resurfaced and really made the humankind shine really brightly out of all of these.
Amen. Amen. My God, those 2 points. I was about to tell you that we're running out of time, but I would like to ask you your realizations, your insights amidst this pandemic. And you gave it well said. Beautiful realizations, beautiful insights. Well, Pablo, we promise you we will pray for you.
Thank you very much, Father.
In all our masses, we have been doing that, but more so, may mukha na ang mga taga London sa amin ngayon. Si Pablo Reyes Jr. I will remember you in my masses.
Thank you very much, Father Nono. Before I go, I also would like, I know you've mentioned Sister Ina already.
Yes.
I just would like to thank her for this opportunity. She was really the one who pushed me to do this, who encouraged me to do this, and I really thank her. She's been a friend. She's been a co-host and co-MC. She's my favorite partner when I used to do hosting jobs in the Philippines before. So Sister Ina was really that. She was very popular. I wasn't, but whenever I partnered with her, I mean, the job would almost seem like very easy.
So we have the same experience. She was my co-host also for a while sa DZMM, di ba?
Yeah.
Kailan nag-OFW na rin siya sa Macau. She left me. She abandoned me.
Oh my.
Maraming salamat, Pablo.
No problem, Father. You're very welcome.
You so
Thank you also for this opportunity.
Pero mag-ingat ka rin. Mag-ingat ka pa rin.
Salamat. Thank you very much.
We are
and my prayers also goes out to the rest of the frontliners and to the rest of you who are doing online masses and who have been praying for us and who've been giving us blessing upon blessing for protection and everything. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that as well and really need that.
Yes, we are very proud of you. With or without Piers Morgan, we are proud of you. Maraming salamat, Pablo.
Thank you, Father Nono.
Take care. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good morning. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The Jesuit Hour. Get to know the Jesuits. Discover their spirituality, their history, their ministries. The Jesuit Hour. Anything Jesuit, everything Jesuit. The Jesuit Hour.